Respectful language carries a quiet strength that often goes unnoticed in fast and noisy conversations. When older men speak with respect, they communicate something deeper than politeness. They show awareness of the emotional space around them. Many interactions today are rushed, competitive, or filled with attempts to impress. In contrast, respectful words slow the moment down and allow a conversation to feel balanced. Instead of dominating the discussion, a man who chooses thoughtful language creates room for the other person to express herself freely. This does not require complex vocabulary or dramatic expressions. Often it is revealed through simple responses that acknowledge another person's thoughts. When a woman feels that her words are being heard rather than dismissed, the tone of the conversation shifts. Respect becomes visible not only in what is said, but also in how it is said. The calm pace, the absence of judgment, and the willingness to listen all combine to create an atmosphere where connection can develop naturally. In many ways, respectful language signals maturity because it shows that the speaker values understanding more than winning the conversation. That mindset quietly sets a person apart in social interactions. Another reason respectful language has such a strong effect is that it communicates emotional steadiness. Words spoken with patience and consideration suggest that the person speaking is comfortable with himself and does not need to prove his worth through loud opinions or constant attention seeking. Older men who have learned this often rely on calm expressions rather than exaggerated charm. They understand that communication is not only about delivering a message, but about shaping how the other person feels during the exchange. When respectful words are used, they reduce tension and invite openness. A woman listening to such language may sense that the interaction is safe and genuine rather than performative. That sense of safety can make conversation flow more easily because there is no pressure to defend or impress. Respectful language also reflects attentiveness. It shows that the speaker is observing emotional cues and responding with care. Over time, this kind of communication builds trust because it consistently reinforces the idea that the other person's thoughts and feelings matter. The attraction that grows from this is subtle but meaningful. It is not based on dramatic gestures, but on the comfort created through steady, thoughtful communication. The deeper influence of respectful language lies in how it shapes the entire rhythm of interaction. Instead of focusing on quick reactions, it encourages reflection and genuine engagement. When someone feels respected, they are more likely to share their perspectives openly. That openness creates a richer conversation where both individuals contribute without fear of being dismissed. Older men who rely on respectful language often understand that influence does not come from controlling the conversation, but from guiding it with calm awareness. Their words acknowledge differences without turning them into conflicts. They listen before responding and respond in ways that recognize the value of the other person's viewpoint. This approach does not seek to impress through clever lines or rehearsed statements. Instead, it reflects a deeper habit of consideration. Over time, that habit becomes noticeable. The conversation feels steady rather than chaotic, thoughtful rather than reactive. In that environment, connection grows quietly because both people feel comfortable expressing themselves. Respectful language, therefore, becomes more than a communication tool. It becomes a reflection of character, revealing patience, maturity, and a genuine interest in understanding others. Emotionally intelligent words have a quiet ability to shape how a conversation feels. They do not force attraction or try to impress through dramatic statements. Instead, they create a space where two people can interact comfortably and honestly. Older men who have developed emotional awareness often rely on this kind of communication. They recognize that attraction is not only about appearance or confidence, but also about how someone makes another person feel during a conversation. Words that reflect understanding, patience, and curiosity help build that feeling. When a woman senses that someone is truly present in the interaction, she is more likely to engage openly. Emotionally intelligent language focuses on acknowledging the other person rather than trying to control the direction of the discussion. For example, instead of quickly changing the topic or dismissing a perspective, a thoughtful response might recognize the meaning behind what was shared. This shows attentiveness and respect. The tone becomes calmer and more balanced, which naturally encourages deeper dialogue. Over time, these small moments of recognition accumulate and create a sense of connection that feels genuine rather than forced. Another important aspect of emotionally intelligent words is that they demonstrate awareness of emotional cues. Conversations are not only about exchanging information, they also involve subtle signals about comfort, interest, and boundaries. Someone who pays attention to these signals tends to choose language that keeps the conversation respectful and steady. Older men who communicate this way often avoid exaggerated compliments or overly rehearsed phrases. Instead, they speak in ways that reflect sincerity. A thoughtful comment or a gentle acknowledgement can carry more weight than a long speech. Emotionally intelligent words also show restraint. They avoid interrupting, judging, or correcting too quickly. This patience signals confidence because it shows that the speaker does not feel the need to dominate the interaction. When a woman experiences this type of communication, she may feel that the conversation is balanced rather than one-sided. That balance allows both individuals to express themselves without pressure. The attraction that grows from such exchanges is subtle. It develops through comfort and mutual respect, rather than through dramatic attempts to gain attention. The deeper impact of emotionally intelligent language appears over time as conversations continue. Each thoughtful response reinforces the sense that the interaction is guided by awareness rather than impulse. Instead of reacting quickly, the speaker considers how his words might be received. This habit gradually builds trust because it shows consistent care for the other person's experience in the conversation. Women often respond positively to this kind of communication because it feels stable and grounded. There is no sense of emotional chaos or unpredictability. Instead, the interaction feels calm and respectful. Emotional intelligence also allows the conversation to remain flexible. Differences in opinion do not immediately turn into tension because the language used keeps the focus on understanding rather than proving a point. In this environment, curiosity replaces defensiveness. Both people feel more comfortable exploring ideas and sharing perspectives. The attraction that emerges from this dynamic is rooted in the quality of the interaction itself. It grows from the feeling that the conversation is meaningful, thoughtful, and emotionally aware. Calm confidence often reveals itself through the way a person speaks rather than through dramatic actions. In conversations, the tone and choice of words can communicate stability and self-assurance without needing to declare it openly. Older men who have developed this quality tend to speak at a measured pace and use language that feels steady and thoughtful. They do not rush to fill every moment with words, nor do they attempt to dominate the discussion. Instead, their communication reflects comfort with silence and patience with the flow of dialogue. This calm presence naturally attracts attention because it contrasts with the hurried and sometimes chaotic style of communication that many people experience daily. When someone speaks with calm confidence, it sends the message that they are secure in themselves. That sense of stability often makes others feel relaxed during the conversation. A woman may notice that the interaction feels less pressured and more genuine. Instead of feeling like she must respond quickly or defend her opinions, she senses that her words are being received with interest and respect. Calm confidence therefore shapes the emotional environment of the conversation, allowing it to unfold naturally rather than forcing it into a performance. Another aspect of calm confidence is the ability to express thoughts clearly without exaggeration. People who rely on loud statements or constant self-promotion often reveal insecurity beneath their words. In contrast, a confident communicator usually speaks with simplicity and clarity. Older men who understand this often choose language that is direct yet respectful. They avoid unnecessary arguments and instead focus on meaningful exchange. When a woman hears someone speak with this level of composure, she may interpret it as emotional maturity. It suggests that the person has learned from experience and understands the value of steady interaction. Calm confidence also appears in how someone responds to differing opinions. Instead of reacting defensively, the conversation remains balanced. This response shows that the speaker is comfortable enough with his own perspective that he does not feel threatened by another viewpoint. Such behavior subtly communicates strength of character. Over time, this consistency makes the conversation feel reliable. The interaction becomes less about proving who is right and more about sharing ideas with mutual respect. The influence of calm confidence grows stronger as conversations continue because it builds a sense of trust. When someone maintains a steady tone and thoughtful language, the other person begins to feel that the interaction is predictable in a positive way. There is no sudden shift into aggression or impatience. This emotional steadiness allows the conversation to deepen gradually. Older men who communicate this way often focus on listening carefully before responding. Their replies show consideration rather than impulse. This approach encourages a rhythm where both people contribute without interruption or pressure. A woman experiencing this type of dialogue may feel more comfortable revealing her thoughts because the environment feels respectful and supportive. Calm confidence therefore becomes more than a communication style. It reflects a mindset that values understanding and balance. Instead of seeking attention through dramatic words, it relies on presence and consistency. In many conversations, that quiet strength becomes noticeable because it creates a rare sense of ease and authenticity. Words that signal safety and maturity often stand out in conversations because they change the emotional tone of the interaction. Many people speak without considering how their words might affect the comfort of the person listening. However, mature communicators understand that language carries emotional weight. Older men who recognize this tend to choose words that create a calm and respectful atmosphere. Instead of challenging, dismissing, or interrupting, they respond with patience and awareness. This approach does not require complicated language. Often it is reflected in small phrases that acknowledge another person's perspective. When a woman hears responses that show understanding rather than judgment, she begins to feel that the conversation is emotionally safe. Safety in communication does not mean agreement on every topic. It means knowing that opinions will be heard without ridicule or hostility. This sense of emotional stability allows both people to speak more openly. Over time, the conversation becomes more natural because neither person feels pressured to guard every word. Language that signals maturity therefore helps build a foundation where trust can quietly develop. Another important element of mature communication is the ability to remain composed even when the conversation becomes complex or personal. People who lack emotional control often react quickly with criticism or defensiveness. In contrast, someone who communicates with maturity tends to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Older men who have learned from life experience often show this through their tone and wording. They avoid phrases that escalate tension and instead use language that keeps the discussion balanced. This behavior signals emotional stability because it shows that the speaker values understanding over winning an argument. When a woman observes this kind of response, she may interpret it as a sign of reliability. Mature language reflects the idea that the conversation is a shared experience rather than a competition. It encourages curiosity about each other's viewpoints. Instead of feeling like she must defend her thoughts, she may feel invited to explore them further. This shift in atmosphere can make the interaction feel more meaningful and comfortable for both individuals. The deeper effect of words that signal safety and maturity appears gradually as conversations continue. Each respectful response reinforces the idea that the interaction is guided by patience and awareness. Over time, this pattern becomes noticeable. The conversation feels steady rather than unpredictable. Women often respond positively to this stability because it suggests emotional responsibility. Mature language demonstrates that the speaker understands the impact of his words and chooses them with care. This attentiveness builds confidence in the interaction. Both people begin to feel that they can express themselves without fear of unnecessary conflict. As a result, the dialogue becomes richer and more engaging. The connection that forms through this process is subtle but meaningful. It grows from the comfort created by thoughtful communication rather than from dramatic attempts to impress. Words that signal safety and maturity therefore act as quiet indicators of character. They reveal patience, emotional awareness, and a genuine interest in maintaining respectful dialogue. Listening before speaking is one of the most overlooked skills in communication, yet it carries remarkable influence in building meaningful conversations. Many interactions today are dominated by the urge to respond quickly, often before the other person has fully expressed their thoughts. However, when someone pauses to truly listen, the entire tone of the conversation begins to change. Older men who have gained experience in relationships and social dynamics often understand the value of this pause. They recognize that listening is not simply remaining silent while waiting to talk. It involves paying attention to the words, tone, and emotional cues being shared. When a woman senses that someone is listening carefully, she often feels more comfortable expressing herself. This comfort does not arise from dramatic gestures, but from the quiet signal that her voice matters in the conversation. Listening also allows a person to respond more thoughtfully because the response is shaped by what was actually said rather than by assumptions. Over time, this habit of attentive listening creates a steady rhythm in communication. Instead of two people competing for attention, the conversation becomes a cooperative exchange of ideas and experiences. Another important effect of listening before speaking is that it demonstrates respect without needing to announce it directly. Words can express respect, but attentive listening shows it in action. Older men who rely on this approach often allow the conversation to unfold naturally. They ask thoughtful questions or respond to specific points rather than shifting the topic toward themselves. This behavior shows that the interaction is not about performing or dominating the discussion. Instead, it reflects curiosity and patience. A woman observing this pattern may feel that the conversation has a sense of balance. Her thoughts are not rushed aside, and her experiences are acknowledged as part of the dialogue. Listening also reduces misunderstandings because the speaker has taken time to absorb the full message before responding. In many situations,